Hello again, David Buns here. Part 3. How do you get a cult out of your brain? How do you escape mentally from a cult? Because that's really what you have to do. You can leave physically, which, as I described in my last video that I did, but how do you leave mentally? That's the question that I'm going to answer in this presentation. So, my problem in my post-cult life, physically being in the group at Mount Carmel, is that I'm stuck in a loop. So, anger, fear, angry, anger, I described some of that last episode. Why does he get this and I don't get that? And all the other kind of things you can imagine you complain about when your life is controlled by somebody else, versus fear. Oh, he's the prophet, he's the chosen one of God, hellfire and damnation. And then you're in this cycle. How do you escape? How do you get yourself out of that loop? And quite frankly, I needed help. I didn't get out by myself. So I got stuck in this loop for several months. So what happened is that we would visit my mother. She worked at a hospital locally, and we would go on weekends and sit in the cafeteria and have a nice visit with her. She would see our daughter. And she mentioned, well, it's the new light, except that she doesn't call it that. She doesn't really tell us what's going on, but she mentions, long time people in the group who normally wouldn't have trouble with new doctrines are having trouble. And she specifically mentions Steve and Mark Bro. To be clear, Steve Schneider and Mark Bro. So I described Steve Schneider in the last video, but who was Mark Bro? Mark Bro is an important figure in the history of the group, so let's talk about him for a little bit. Mark Bro was a student at Loma Linda University who came into the group in 1986. He was proselytized by Perry Jones. Mark Bro was interesting in that he had visions that confirmed Vernon's message, Vernon Howell's message, David Koresh's message. Not David Koresh yet at this point. This is 1986. This is prior to the new light. So he's still Vernon Howell. So Vernon Howell is excited to have Mark Bro in the group because it's further confirmation of his own message, and is quite happy to have Mark discuss his visions and talk about them, and use Mark, recognizes Mark, I suppose, as kind of like a minor prophet. Okay. So he becomes rather prominent in the group, and also is allowed to teach the message and give studies. He picked it up really quick and is seen as kind of like a somewhat of an authority in the group, and people trust his judgment and stuff like that. So for me to hear, and he was a friend as well. Mark is a friend. We were friends. We don't see much of each other. He lives in Australia now, but I consider Mark a friend. I heard that Mark had left the group. I was like, oh, wow. Previously, when my mom had told us about that little tidbit, Steve and Mark are having trouble, my wife immediately guessed, oh, well, he's gone and done the final thing, He's taken all the women for himself. I guess I heard this. My wife, was being smarter than me at this point. She's ahead of me. And again, she hasn't told me the thing that she knows that I don't know. So she has additional information that I don't have. I don't even know if she's really fully aware of this at the time. She's going through her own issues. She's going through her own deconversion and processing. But I think she commented that, hey, he's already obviously taken all the women. I think that just kind of bounces off my skull. I don't really register. So, okay, that's a data point. And then Mark Brohus then ends up leaving. Oh, okay. All right. So that's interesting. The next thing that happens is I visit. Well, one thing that happens also is I talk to my father. My father's in the group. He mentions, oh, I heard Vernon say that, I'd let David come back if he came back. I'd let him come back. Like, oh, really? Well, he never told me that. This is important later. Huh. Okay. Nice to know. So, all right. So then I visit. One day, Wayne Martin had an office in Waco. And for some reason, I went to visit him at his office. I don't remember why. Maybe just a friendly visit. He was a lawyer. He was a Harvard trained lawyer. He's the one that made the famous 911 call. I was visiting him in his office one day, and I looked down, and there's a couple of boxes that have an address on them, and it's addressed to Mark Bro. Oh. Now, Wayne Martin is a member of the group. I mean, it's not that I'm not saying he's like some kind of evil, wicked person or anything, but I mean, I don't want him to know that I want Mark Bro's address. He might tell Vernon, he might not. I don't know. So I'm kind of eyeballing those boxes, and I'm memorizing the address on there. Quickly, just kind of committing them to memory. Once I've got it down, and then I chat with Wayne Martin for a while, and then I leave. And I write Mark a letter. So the gist of the letter basically was that, hey, Mark, how you doing? And I describe, my current life. Hey, I've got a job doing this and whatever, so on and so forth, some small talk. And then I mentioned, hey, I heard that you're not in the group anymore. I know for sure, one thing's for sure, is that if you left the group, you believe you had a really good reason for doing so. I'm fishing. Okay, I want to know what the hell's going on. I'm getting sick of this. Okay, there's something going on. I want to know what it is. I deserve to know. So, yeah. Okay. Now, unfortunately, it takes a long time for mail to reach Australia, and this is 1990. You don't have email or anything like that. Phone calls are expensive. So, in the interim, Passover is approaching, and I'm spiraling down into a pit of fear. Unfortunately, I'm going backwards. So, like I said, I haven't escaped the cult in my brain, and anger is less, and it's more fear. Spend more time in the fear cycle, right? And less time in the anger cycle. Yeah. Not my best moment coming up here, but I'll lay it out. So it gets so bad. And remember, I've already explained my wife isn't manipulative. Okay, so she errs on the side of caution in terms of, if my husband is going to figure something out, then he's going to have to figure it out. So she'll help, but she's not going to tell me what to do. So I know that Passover season's coming, and Passover at Mount Carmel, everybody comes and there's meetings and all that stuff that happens every year. So this is 1990 Passover. I've been out almost a year at this point, and I'm trying to find out if Vernon is at Mount Carmel, because if I find out, then I can go there and hang outside the gate. I can't go in on the property. I'd already been on the property several months previously to get something that belonged to me, and I was allowed on for like 5 minutes, and then Vernon sent Floyd Hauptman out to intimidate me because Floyd was a big guy and got me off the property really quickly. So indicating, Vernon doesn't have any desire to see me or talk to me or anything, you know. So if I go there to stand at the gate, to beg to come back in, I'll have to stand at the gate. I can't go onto the property. I'm not allowed. And this is what I want to do. But I'm not going to go if Vernon's not there. Now, the problem with these people is if you call, there's such a culture of uncertainty in the group in terms of you don't want to say the wrong thing, that I can call up, somebody can pick up the phone, hey, is Vernon there? No. I mean, they're not going to confirm if he's there if they don't know if they can. So they'll just say no. This is rather humorous sometimes. I'll flash forward a few years. When I met with, and this is after my deconversion, and I'm already, fighting against this, what I think is a cult, I meet with Steve Schneider and a lot of the men in a house in Pomona, California, and I'm fighting them about this very issue. They won't even admit the new light. First of all, it's all, Now there had been what I would call sham marriages in the group. Sham marriage meaning, hey, this foreign woman or foreign man will marry an American man or woman, and oh, we're married and now I get to stay in the country, right? It's a sham. So this happened with my sister and somebody named Cliff Sellers. This happened with, I'm not sure who the woman was, but there was a gentleman named Jimmy Riddle. And Jimmy thinks he's going to be clever when I'm saying, you're not allowed to get married. And he says, oh, well, I'm married. So because he, oh, I'm going to show David a thing or two. I'm married. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Jimmy, who you married to? I can't tell you. That's a clue. There's something weird going on here, don't you think? So that's the way they were. You don't want to give away too much information if you don't know if you should. Mum's the word, right? So, but one day I called, I was at work, and I call and I got confirmation. Yes, Vernon is at Mount Carmel. Boom. Plan springs into action. I get on my motorcycle, drive all the way. It's quite a trip from where I was. I worked on the other side of Waco, all the way out to Mount Carmel, and then go park my bike right at the gate and sit there and wait to be noticed. There's people walking around. Some people I knew, some people I didn't. New converts coming in. This is Passover 1990, so this is about 3 years before the events of 1993, right? So eventually I get Perry's attention. He comes down and talks to me, to find out what I want, and I let Perry know really quickly. I then see Perry go down. I see Vernon drive this giant Greyhound type bus. Not a Greyhound bus specifically, but not a school bus. A big, kind of like a touring type bus that Vernon must have acquired recently or something. I think he's probably still having some kind of idea about touring the country with his music, I guess. That was always a vision of his, a dream. He was a musician, as you know. So he parks this bus in front of the building there, the administration building, and then gets out, and I see Perry talking to him, and I see him looking way towards my direction. I'm way up at the gate, and some communication happens, and then Perry comes back and gives me the answer, and Perry says, Vernon says, no, you can't come in. We're far too advanced for you. And that offended me immediately. And I got on my motorcycle and I went home. Okay. Well, wasn't shortly, it might have been like the next day, but it wasn't very long after that, at the most just a day or two, that we got a reply from Mark in Australia. Oh boy, did we get a reply. Now I'm continuing down into the spiral of fear, right? And and desperation. So I'm actually past the point of really being reasonable anymore. I'm bad. I'm getting, yeah. So Debbie tells me we got the tape, and she says she confirms what her suspicions were months before when my mom let us know a few things, and she lets Debbie tells me, oh, he's taken all the wives now. Boom! That hit me like a ton of bricks. And I went into the bathroom and I started crying. Why would you give me something so beautiful, my wife, and take it away from me? Immediately assume that I'm supposed, it's just, I'm a mess. I'm a complete frickin' mess. Just, ugh. So I'm like, something snaps in me. I'm gonna give this tape over as an offering to Vernon. I call Debbie back up. I want you to take that tape and you take it, and we're gonna give it. Call up Vernon. We're gonna give it to him and say we're gonna give this away as an offering, and we're not gonna listen to that. And she says, I'm sorry, honey, I can't do that. I've been listening to it. You need to listen to this. No, another jolt. What? My wife, who I trust, who I love and trust, and she wants me to listen to the tape. Wow, I think I should probably listen to it then, I guess, because yeah, I trust my wife. I love my wife. So that's like a lifeline, the trust. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so I agree to listen to the tape. Okay. See, that's where she knew what to do. Okay, right. Okay, so I finished the day at work, went home, and listened to the tape. Just walked in the door, sit down, put the tape in the cassette, play, boom, and enter into this world. And this is what I was referring to when I said that I needed help. Okay, I need to see this from another angle, because I'm just, as I explained, and I'm spiraling down into the pit of despair and fear. It's very real. I'm sure there are many of you listening. You can understand what I'm talking about. It's powerful. Belief systems are powerful. Yeah. So, whoa, my goodness. Was that tape an eye-opener? Let me tell you. Woo! Over the next few days, as I absorbed the things that were being explained to me and the logical arguments against what Vernon was teaching at the time, the New Light Doctrine, I could feel my brain like turning around in my skull. Like literally my way of thinking is completely reoriented as I start to see things differently, and a flood of information stored away in my brain, things that I had registered over the years, check mark, that Vernon had said that I knew were wrong, technical errors and things like that, mistakes, start coming out. And pretty soon this machinery of doubt and skepticism starts to start up in my brain, and it just starts going. And pretty soon I'm running what I would call my critical thinking apparatus. It starts to engage. And I start thinking about things a lot. Whoa, let me tell you, it was amazing. So I don't want to bore you too much, but the primary point that Mark was making in the tape, amongst several, requires a bit of explanation, and I will just briefly explain. So back in 1985, early days, so this is a couple of years into his message, David Koresh, Vernon Howell at the time again, not David Koresh yet, but this is where he began his doctrine of Cyrus. Now, Koresh and Cyrus is the same thing. Koresh is just a more Hebrew pronunciation of Cyrus. So, David Cyrus, David Koresh, same thing. Now, Cyrus was a Persian king, but the Bible has verses about Cyrus that say, you know, you're going to conquer Babylon and you're going to destroy the evil and you're going to save the people of God and all this stuff. So Cyrus anciently destroyed Babylon. Modern Cyrus is going to destroy modern Babylon. Long story short, Vernon Howell comes back from Jerusalem. In the east, there's a verse, you know, a ravenous bird from the east. It's related to Cyrus. Ravenous has to do with being hungry. Vernon has an appetite problem, links that in with ravenous. That's me. I'm the bird. I'm Cyrus. So he becomes a ravenous bird. I know this sounds crazy. Just trust me. This is the way it goes. I'm just really super abbreviating here. I don't want to string this out too long. Okay. There's another scripture in Isaiah 16 that talks about lambs. A lamb. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, to the mount of the daughter of Zion, for it shall be as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so shall the daughters of Moab be at the fords of the Arnon. Yeah, I know. I know a lot of Bible, believe me, when you spend 5 years reading it all day. Anyway, so what that verse is saying is that there's a lamb. It's like a wandering bird, which is the bird from Isaiah, and it's a lamb, which is a sacrificial, you know, object that atones for sin. So now Cyrus is a lamb. Cyrus is a bird. Cyrus is a lamb. The lamb is in the Holy Land, getting sent to Jerusalem. Okay. Well, then it's a short leap from there. Of course, this is like super abbreviated tidbits from literally hundreds of hours of studying. Okay, so think about that. Anyway, so finally we get to, that's lamb with a capital L, you know. But then we get to the big kahuna, the Lamb of Revelation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book of Revelation. There's symbology in the book of Revelation, a lamb as it had been slain in the center of the throne in Revelation 5. And I looked, and behold, there was a lamb that had been slain. And John is weeping in Revelation because there's a scroll with 7 seals. And no one can open the book, right? Is anybody worthy to open the book? No one's worthy. Nobody in heaven, nobody on earth, nobody under the earth. Nobody. And John weeps because if you can't open the book, then, you know, it's all over. It's game over. The world is lost. Oh, wait. Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and loose the seals thereof. And I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne, in the midst of the beasts and the elders, was a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are this, you know, the 7 horns, the 7 eyes on this lamb. It's a pretty freaky looking lamb. And David Koresh was claiming to be this lamb. And that's his whole thing, because this is the seals of Revelation. It's huge. Yeah, it's a big thing. We'll get more into this later, just quickly abbreviating here. So, but at the end of Revelation, because one of the things it says is, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David. And the angel is talking about the lamb. So one of the things you know about the lamb is that the lamb in Revelation is the root of David. It specifically says so. That's crystal clear. You don't need to have a 15-hour Bible study and sit and listen to Vernon run his jaw for 5 million. You don't have to. You just read it, and that's what it says. It's easy, simple. A child can understand it. At the end of the book of Revelation, it says, I, Jesus, send my angel. I am the root and offspring of David. So Jesus is speaking at the end of the book of Revelation, to John in a vision. Jesus Christ himself speaking to John, I am the root of David. So simple logical deduction, right? The Lamb is the root of David. Jesus is the root of David. Jesus is the Lamb. Easy. Now, in my mind, whatever Vernon is teaching, whatever he is, or whatever kind of prophetic fulfillment he is, he cannot be Jesus Christ. That is, by definition, impossible. Period. I wasn't that far gone, okay? Can't be Jesus. That's it. I'm confused. You heard me explain a lot of fear, so on. But there's one thing that I still know. Okay? I know that if you're sitting in front of somebody and they're, and they're running their mouth and they're shitting on the pot and they're a normal person, I know that you can't be Jesus by definition. It's not possible. That's called, the Gospels warn about that. It says, oh, he's in the inner rooms, come see, believe them not. It's like a whole thing that Jesus explains very clearly. Hey, there's going to be people that come and they're going to say that they're me. And if they're doing this and they're doing that, don't believe them. How much more clear can you be? It's very simple. It's going to be as lightning shines from the east into the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So he's like telling you, hey, you don't have to go anywhere. Like, that's one of the clues. It's like, hey, come over here and see Jesus. There's no good, that's how you know false messiahs in the modern world, right? If they say, hey, go over there, or come over here, or he's over here, or he's over there, no. you don't have to go anywhere. That's dead friggin' giveaway. Okay? Dead giveaway. Somebody tells you, hey, I know the Messiah. He's down over here. Let's go down in San Bernardino and go into this house and we'll sit down and have a study. No, thank you. You've just told me all I need to know about your Messiah. So that's essentially what the argument was. And let me tell you, I took those basic facts that I just explained and I just kept, turning them around in my head and looking at them from one way and the other way and this way and sideways and downways and backways and fourways and every which way you can. I'm trying to figure out, why am I wrong? Right? How am I wrong about this? How is Mark wrong about this? And I can't figure out how it's right. It's simple, it's basic, it's straightforward. This is something I can sink my teeth into. This is solid stuff. This is really firm. This is good stuff. Yeah. I can take this to the bank. The fear is gone. The fear is disappearing very rapidly now. Okay. So that's all I'm going to talk about for today. There's a part 2 to this because, there is another attack coming. Because guess who decides all of a sudden, after a year of letting me rot and fester away and even saw me at the gate and didn't even want to talk to me, when he finds out I'm talking to Mark Bro, guess who gives me a call? I'll give you one guess. Yeah. Oh, hi, Vernon. So that's the next part of the story that I'll tell you. Because this is where now I'm going to be tested. This is like a boss fight. Anybody who plays video games, I'm going up against the boss himself, the big kahuna, David friggin' Koresh, because that's who he is at this point. He tells me to call him David. I keep calling him Vernon. And he says, no, call me David. So now I'm getting ready for a boss fight. It's going to be like You know. Oh my God. I'll give you a preview. I was so mentally exhausted at one point that I literally threw the phone down and ran out the door and ran down the street. And I don't even remember that. And my wife has to say, Vernon, he's not here anymore. He ran out the door and down the street. Like she hangs up, like just, she doesn't want to talk to him. Yeah. Oh, thinking about it, just crazy days, man. So yeah, I have to explain that whole process because I've got to go up against, you know, this is the object of my fear. So yeah. So next time I'll tell that story.